Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name's Mark and I buy and sell antiques and vintage. Today I thought we'd try something a little bit different in that we'll just have a general chat about the state of the antiques and vintage industry while I show you a couple of free items that I've acquired lately. And I think you can see here, one of the things I've been up to is actually putting in a new racking system for all of my plastic tubs where I keep all of the stock. And they're all numbered. The tubs, as you can see there, I think perhaps number 9. I've got about 21 or 22 quite large tubs in total, filled with about 500 or so items. Not all of them are on my website. Some of them I sell at flea markets. So there is a mixture of stock, and I don't put everything onto my website just because I have a rule in my own head anyway that on my website I don't sell anything for less than £20, and that of course includes postage or shipping as well. So let's take a look at 2 or 3 items that I've acquired recently, and at the same time we'll have a little chat about the state of the antiques and vintage business. So when I'm out and about buying and selling, I obviously get to speak to quite a few fellow dealers, and I'm hearing the same story off pretty well all of them. Yeah, there's always the exceptions to prove the rule, but generally a lot of dealers are telling me that sales are down at the moment. Generally it's quiet, particularly at antique fairs where there's not much footfall. Now, I appreciate completely that I'm talking, specific to my location, the geography of where I live, which is in the Midlands area. So it's not necessarily going to be the same where you're from. So let me know in the comments below if, as a dealer, you're finding it quieter, particularly at the flea markets or the antique fairs. Also, a lot of dealers are saying to me that customers are pushing harder on prices as well. So they're not necessarily buying at the asking price. Now, that's fair enough, and that's been part of this business for many, many years, well, probably since day one. So I don't blame buyers for trying to make a purchase at the best price they can. But equally, it's up to the dealer to try and hold out for a price that's going to deliver them a profit. So, yeah, there seems to be at auctions, when I go buying at auctions, they seem to be pretty full. Prices aren't high, and I'll show you a couple of items I've picked up recently from auctions. But at the same time, there's quite a lot of competition for the best stock. So if a gem does appear in an auction, then there's going to be a lot of people competing for it, which inevitably does, on those particular items, put the price up. So generally, overall, I would say the run-of-the-mill stock you can pick up for next to nothing. But anything with a bit of quality, then a lot of the dealers are competing for it. And obviously, as a result, the price goes up. And you, as a dealer, have to know where your cutoff is in terms of where you will stop or cease making a profit if you buy it at that asking price. So, yeah, that's the state of the nation. Yeah, quiet. Sales are generally low, and also I believe they're low on the online platforms as well, such as eBay and Etsy. I'm hearing that sales are down for a lot of dealers on those particular platforms, and it's interesting, if you watch some of the YouTube channels, they refer to eBay making changes in their algorithm or just general changes to the sales platform itself. Now, I'm not entirely sure that's correct, because I don't sell on eBay or Etsy. I have my own e-commerce website, which you'll see the link to down the bottom of the screen. And it's quiet for me as well. And I'm not subject to the eBay algorithm or the way eBay are changing their platform in terms of GPSR and things like that. And we'll get onto GPSR perhaps a little bit later. So I just think that it's more down to the current economic climate. I think people have drawn the reins in and aren't buying luxury items to the same extent they were. Certainly around the... I can't mention that word, can I? Since the lockdown. I mean, I did incredibly well during those 2 years because people weren't able to get out and about. But since then, it's 2022 started to quieten down, and then 23 and 24 has been noticeably quieter on the sales front than the previous few years. That's only my experience. Again, let me know in the comments below if you're living in a different world. You are making loads of sale. I mean, it does depend on what you're selling. And that brings me on to one of the other topics I wanted to talk about, which was what is selling in the antiques and vintage trade. Well, I'm finding I'm not making that many sales, but a trickle of sales. You know, keeps me out the poor house and pays all the overheads, so I can't complain. Anyway, I'm finding that it's generally the more practical items are selling. So when you're talking about antiques and vintage, and I'll cut to some of the sales I've made recently, they tend to be practical, useful items that people can use around their home, as opposed to the highly decorative, such as artwork or figurines and studio glass, etc. Although, of course, studio glass can be a practical item. So, yeah, having said that, I go out with the best of intentions always to buy practical antiques and vintage. And I always come back with a whole range of things because I just can't stop myself. I think probably most dealers are kind of like that, really. You buy what you like or what appeals to you. So I'll show you 2 or 3 of the items that I bought now recently, and you can let me know what you think in the comments below. So a wide range of stock, which is good. Let's move that out of the way. There we go. So the first 2 items I'm going to show you quickly are incredibly heavy. And they are a pair of cast iron. Well, they're not cast iron, actually. I thought they were when I bought them, but I have restored them now because they were so badly damaged. But they're actually alloy, but they are cast. And they are a pair of black and white. There's the black one, obviously, stating the obvious. A pair of black and white Scottish Terriers that were used to advertise whiskey. And I believe they still are used to advertise whiskey. Here they are. There's the white one. So we've got a lovely pair of, and they weigh an absolute ton, to be honest with you. And I have restored them. So whilst these are decorative, they're also practical as well. You could use them as doorstops quite easily, or as just as decorative display items, I guess. But if you're into your advertising or your breweryana, which is a collection of collectibles associated with, drinks, alcohol, that sort of thing, then these will be quite appealing. And I think I've got them up on my website for £60, which I think is probably a reasonable price for the two. Because although they've been restored, they are vintage. I think they're probably cast alloy, white metal, but filled with, I'd say concrete, but filled, that kind of sort of a concrete material, which gives them a huge weight. So bought those, paid about, well, it wasn't more than £10 for them. So as you know, what I aim for is to sell for at least 3 times what I paid for them. So I've got them up at £60. So I'm well covered there. And the reason I look at 3 times is a third is the purchase price, third are the overheads, and the final third is my profit. So bought them for around a tenner, I think, and got them up listed on the website antiquecentral.co.uk for £60. So I hope you like them. Let me know what you think in the comments. Right, now this is an interesting little story, and there's a bit of a moral attached to it as well. So as you know, and I think it featured in one of my earlier films about how I make a profit, I do tend to buy job lots when I can. And I bought a job lot of vintage jewellery boxes, empty jewellery boxes. It's a big cardboard box with probably about 20 or 25 individual jewellery boxes, all different sorts, some sort of leather, some, well, faux leather, others just cardboard boxes and all that. And I mainly bought them, to be honest with you, to put the jewellery I sell at flea markets, for that jewellery in them. Because I don't, as a rule, buy gold or silver. Well, I don't buy gold or silver deliberately. Just because I don't like the risks that are attached with it. So all of my jewellery is all costume jewellery. So individually only worth £2, £3, £4, £5 per item. But it's good because it attracts a lot of different people to your store when you're at a flea market. And so I bought this box of jewellery boxes, just a job lot, and I only paid £6.50, I think. Nobody else was interested in it. Loaded it all up into my new storage area, forgot about it. Then I thought, well, I'd better go through and sort of check the boxes. So went through, started going through them, and I found this. And this is, well, what I should say is this little box was at the bottom of the job lot, forgotten about, all dusty, covered in spider webs, whatever. And I came across this. I'll actually get it out, it'd be easier to show you. Now, I hope this focuses. I don't know if it will. But what I'll do anyway is I will cut in some close-ups of it because it's now listed on my website. And it is a sterling silver pixie brooch by a designer called Bernard Instone, who was a Birmingham-based designer, and that's where his workshop was, in Birmingham, UK. And he works, well, I think he worked right through the early part of the 20th century. But this particular item is from the Art Deco period. So, well, that's what it's typically recognised as being from anyway, the Art Deco period, which is typically the 1930s, but Art Deco started at the exhibition in France in around the mid-1920s as Art Moderne. That's where it actually all started from, and then evolved into changed the name and evolved into Art Deco, or the decorative arts. So, so I picked this up. It's marked, how do I know it's sterling silver? Well, it's marks on the back, clearly stamped sterling silver. And again, I'll cut a close-up picture in for you. So it's sterling silver 925, which is its purity, and it's got an enamel paint finish on the face behind the actual little pixie. And in this instance, whether or not it was white to begin with back in the 1930s, or whether it's always been this kind of very pale gold colour, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I've researched it online. I can't find a similar colour. I can find identical brooches because obviously they weren't mass produced as such, but they were made in a workshop by a team of jewellers. So it's not unique, but I can't find a similar colour. But I think it's absolutely lovely, and I paid for the box in the auction. I paid about £6.50. I think it was. I got the box for a £5. Nobody was interested, and I've seen these on Etsy and on eBay and on other dealers' websites being listed for as much as £120. But I'm going to probably, well, I have listed it. I'm pretty sure I've listed it on my website, antiquecentral.co.uk. So you can grab yourself a bargain there if you like this kind of Art Deco jewellery. Yeah, so the moral of the story, I guess, is if you do buy a job lot, make sure you go through all of it and check every box and every corner. And you never know, you might find a little diamond in the rough like this, although it's not diamonds. Sterling silver, Lucky Pixie brooch, Art Deco. So, yeah, that cheered me up. Not that I need cheering up, but that was a great. It doesn't happen that often, something like that. It's obviously slipped past the seller, and I was fortunate enough to benefit from it. So that was a good find. If you like this style of video, let me know. If you don't, I won't do any more. But I won't do any more of this style. It's a bit different to what we normally do. Boots, they're in the headlines a little bit at the moment, aren't they? Because of all the stolen goods that have been sold through them, particularly tools. So the villains out there, they're robbing tradesmen's vans, and then somehow or other, they're turning up at car boots. I have no, obviously I don't like the idea of, selling stolen goods. Well, goes without saying, doesn't it? And we don't want that happening. But I don't know. When I walk around a car boot, when I'm searching for stock, I obviously see people selling hundreds of tools, sort of electric drills, that kind of thing. And I don't know where they've got them from. I mean, they can get them from sort of police sales. So these are items that the police have seized and then sell at auction. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? But I think the reason I mention it is because it's posing a threat to car boots in general, I'm led to believe, in that local councils are putting pressure on owners, and which is resulting in some of them closing down. Not necessarily specifically because of the stolen items that are for sale there, but I think that contributes, doesn't it? Well, it's got to. But also, I think, there's a lot of talk about the government wanting to move to a cashless society. And of course, car boots, flea markets, a lot of antique fairs, it's all cash, isn't it? And HMRC can't get their hands on that necessarily. Of course, there's all honest dealers out there that keep records, but equally there's perhaps a few that don't. Cash is king, as they say. So I'm not giving you my opinion here. It's just a matter of fact. But will car boots, flea markets, will they last? Will we still have them within 10 years? especially with HMRC going digital now. And also having the ability to access your bank. Well, they don't directly access your bank accounts, I don't think, but the banks have to provide to the HMRC your details of your bank account. And if they get wind that you're dealing, selling, buying, selling, and I think by that I mean, you know, you're deliberately buying to sell for a profit, then, you know, there's a good chance that you could get a brown letter through your letterbox. I mean, there's I've heard talk that you're allowed £1,000 a year before the HMRC get interested. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I have an accountant. My accountant deals with all my sole trader accounts, as well as my personal tax return. Well, it's all the same thing really as a sole trader. You are the business. So I don't really have to worry about any of that, and I'm meticulous with my paperwork as best I can be, and I don't have to worry about that. But I think if I was buying and selling on the side and turning over more than £1,000 a year, then I would probably be looking over my shoulder, to be quite honest with you now, with the access the HMRC have got legally, you know, to your bank accounts and your bank details. So, yeah, it's a bit scary. So what would my advice be to any of you who are just doing a little bit of buying and selling? Well, keep your records. Keep your records and declare any profit. That'd be my advice. Some of you may well completely disagree. I'm not, you know, I can only talk about it from my personal point of view. But with tax going digital soon as well, that's going to impact on a lot of sole traders, because if your turnover, I think, is over 50 grand a year, you're going to have to do 5 returns a year. So that's one every quarter, and then an overall one at the end of the year. And I think the following year it drops to 30,000 and then 20,000. So there will come a point in time in 2 or 3 years or whatever that if your turnover is in excess of 20 grand, then you'll have to provide a digital tax return, which is 5 returns in a year, one every quarter, and then an overall one at the end of the year. So I don't know how the accountants are going to deal with this, because they can't be charging 5 times what they were. You know, there's only 1 tax return a year. So are they now saying that you've got to do 5? Are the accountants going to charge 5 times the amount? I doubt it. People can't afford that, I don't think. So it's a little bit of a can of worms, that is. And I'm not sure most people are prepared for it. So if your turnover is over 50 grand, then you better get your research cap on and talk to your accountant, because it's coming. It is definitely happening. So, you know, that's just me tipping you the wink there, really, you know. Yeah, sort of, yeah, get your head around it. It's not going to go away. Anyway, something to look forward to, isn't it? On the practical front, I always buy these when I see them. And they are the copper pans. So a little jam pan. No maker's mark, but it's an antique. I'd say it's late Victorian, very, very early 20th century. Brass handles, copper pan. No maker's mark, I don't think. No. Or if there was one, it's worn off years ago. But a good practical item that, in theory, could be used for cooking, I suppose. But generally these are used as plant pots. So lovely item. I think I paid £7.50 for it, and these can go for up to £60. It's on the website. Can't remember exactly what I've got on it, but they can definitely go for around £60 quite comfortably. So nice decorative brass handles. No lid. They don't really come with lids traditionally. Some do, but this didn't. Got this from a little antique shop in Dudley in the West Midlands. I visited my nephew and he gave me a tour around his hometown, and of course there was an antique shop, so we had to pop in, and I picked it up there. So very happy with that. And the last item I'll show you, again, as you can imagine, right up my street, is a brass companion set. Now, if you watch my channel over the years, you'll know what a companion set is. It sits on your hearth, and they're tools for your fire. So let's get it all together. There we go. There it is. A lovely brass companion set. Now, let me hook that. There we are. Right, there you go. Can you see that? So, it's got the brush, the poker for your fire, the tongs to pick out your coals, or I guess your if it's a wood burner, you know, the wood, and a little shovel so you can sweep up all the ash. Now, these sell for around £45. I've seen them a lot more than that. I've seen them up to 60. Prices are variable. All our items are only ever worth what someone is prepared to pay for it. So I have this on my website for £45, although I probably could achieve 60 if I waited for the buyer at the end of the rainbow. But it's up for 40, or 45, I think it is actually. 45, and hopefully that'll achieve a quickish sale. Because they are popular. A lot of people now are turning to open fires or wood burners. And to have these items, they're not only decorative, but totally practical as well. They're solid brass, except for there's a steel tube inside each of the tools and also the stand, just to give it extra strength. Because it'd be a bit, unless it was solid brass, then it would, you know, being a sort of a hollow brass, you know, it'd be a bit weak really. It'd be dent easily. So there's steel tubes inside it, which gives it that added strength. But all the brass that you can see is solid brass. So yeah, there you go. One last thing that I thought we'd briefly touch on is GPSR, which has been causing a heck of a lot of consternation amongst sellers across the internet. And GPSR stands for General Product Safety Regulations, I believe. And it's kind of a European Union type thing, whereby you've got to have loads of information about the product you're selling, especially if it's new to the market. So I don't sell into Europe or globally anyway. I only sell in the UK, and always take guidance from the government website as well. I'd always advise that. I don't advise many things, but I advise that. The GPSR, always take advice from the government website. But as it stands, in the UK, it's not so much of an issue. Although I think Northern Ireland has got, for some reason to do with Brexit, Northern Ireland's got a few issues around it, from what I believe. But there are certain exemptions, I think. And the thing about antiques and vintage is, if you're not selling them, if you're only selling them as display items or decorative items, and you clearly state this in your listing, I'm not sure GPSR applies to antiques and vintage. So if you're selling, I don't know, let me think of a good example. If you're selling well, let's use the companion set. You know, I could say on my listing that this is for display only. It hasn't been safety tested. You have to state this clearly in the listing. It hasn't been checked for safety and should not be used, you know, for practical use. Then, you know, that's a sort of a way around the GPSR, I believe. But again, double check that, because it's only my understanding, and of course I might be wrong. But it's quite a complicated area, and in a way, you know, should I mention it? I suppose what I'm saying is basically just check it out. Check out what you're selling, whether that's antiques, vintage or modern stuff. Check out what you're selling and check the rules for GPSR, which is the General Product Safety Regulations. And if they do apply to you, then there's a lot of information you're going to need to hand, and when you do your listing, to comply with it. There's all sorts of regulations. It's a different hour-long video on its own. So I suppose the reason I mentioned it is just to give you the heads up that you should check whether or not the items you're selling would be subject to GPSR, especially if you're selling internationally and into Europe in particular. So there you go. Right, well, it was a bit of a general chat. It's the first time I've tried to do one of these general chit chats, really. So it's a bit different for the channel. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments below, politely, of course. But if you have enjoyed it, then, you know, we could do kind of like one a month or something like that, maybe, or even more if you want, because, you know, they're not hard to do as videos. But I'll wait to hear back from you. Just let me know. I mean, is it one of those videos where you can just play it in the background while you're working, or have a cup of tea, you know, and listen to me rambling on? Then that's fine. That's absolutely fine. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Now, as ever, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or one of them at least. It really, really helps if you do like the video and share it. I don't charge anything. None of my content's hidden behind any paywalls of any description. I'll never ask you for money. So all I'd ask is hit that like button and share it with a friend who's interested in this kind of stuff. That'd be great. And if you're a new subscriber, let me know where in the world you're from, approximately, and I'll add you to the subscriber list that you should see on screen at the moment. I'm not sure if it's going to be scrolling across the bottom or probably down the side down there. So yeah, let me know where you're from in the world. We had someone from Dublin literally just subscribe a couple of days ago. So we're just building that little community. No names or anything like that. It's just where you're from. I'll add it to the list. So right, that's it. As ever, take care, and I'll see you next time.